Okay, in this video we're going to do exercise 13-1. So let's get started. I'm going to open up exercise 13 invoice line items, and from the download disk the exercises that we got for the class with the textbook. Basically, this exercise is we're going to make this screen here, and this is going to have a drop-down select control here, which is actually just a select. And when we select an invoice, it actually does a post back, goes to the server, comes back with the line items for that invoice. And we can select another one, and it comes right back with the line items for that invoice. And so we're going to learn how to make the formatting of this and the table look nice and so on. So let's open up this application, and it contains a starting page and the database and an image and the style sheet used by the page. Let's look and see. We've got the starting page here, which is here, and it looks like this. It's got the image at the top and some div elements here, and then we've got an images folder. That's the banner up here, and we've got style sheet information. We've got content with Bootstrap already installed, the JavaScript, and a database right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a drop-down list to the page. Add a drop-down list to the page within the div that follows the label in the first form group. And then we're going to select the data source command from the smart tag, and we're going to select a new data source for the drop-down list in the data source configuration wizard. And we're going to connect to this Halloween.mdf folder, a file, which is the database in the app data folder. And so we're going to set up a select statement and with a where clause and so on. And the where clause is going to get it's going to get a parameter from the actual from the drop-down list. So to do that, we're going to go back here, and basically let's look at the source. And if we look at the source, we see the Bootstrap tags up there to connect in the files, and we've got our div container here, the div, that's the container, and then we've got a header class here, which the image be in there, and then we've got a main section here that's got the form, and this form, you notice, is a form class, form horizontal, and so we've got one div in here, which has got the label choose an invoice. And then right in here is going to be the drop-down list. And so this is going to go to the right of the choose an invoice. And you notice we've got the column specifications in here. If it's an extra small screen, this choose an invoice takes up 4 out of 12 across the screen. If it's small, it's going to be offset by 1 and it takes up 3. And then the actual drop-down list is going to take up 8 columns, 8 out of 12, which is 2/3 of the screen. If it's an extra small screen, otherwise it's going to just take up 5/12 of the screen. So we want to put that drop-down list right here, and so I'm going to put the cursor there, switch back to design, and I can see where the cursor is. So that's where I want to put the drop-down list. So let's find a drop-down list. Here it is, and put it there. And now we're going to choose a data source. So let's click choose a data source, and I'm going to click new data source, and I'm going to select database, and SQL data source 1 is a fine name for that data source. And then I'm going to new connection, and I'm going to use this Halloween connection string that I have in the web config already, and I'm going to click next, and it gives me an error. And the reason we're getting this error is because we are using ASP.NET 4.6, and this database is not compatible with 4.6, so we need to upgrade it. And to do that, click OK, click Cancel, go back over to the Server Explorer, open up the data connections, click on the database up here, click on the connected database, and we get this. And so let's find the database again. It's right there, but let's find it here. Browse, and it is in exercise 13, invoice line items, application data. We're right here. This one, open this up, and here I'll click on OK, and it says it's not compatible. Would you like to upgrade? Yes, I would like to upgrade. And now that it's upgraded, I should be able to connect to it. And there it is. There are all my tables. All right, what's next? I need to go back and actually connect it up now. So I'm going to click here and choose data source and go through this again. New data source, database, OK, connection string, this one. Next. The data source should include the invoice number column from the invoices table for all invoices whose total column is greater than 300. We're going to do that by creating the where clause for the select statement. And so let's find invoices table, invoices, this one. This is the invoices table. And we just want invoice number. That's all we need. And I'm going to add a where clause. Click where. And the column is going to be total, because I want the total, all invoices whose total is greater than 300. So I'm going to click total. And the operator is going to be greater than. And the source is going to be none. It's just going to be a 300. Click Add, and then click OK. And then I can click Next, and I can finish. And here I select what fields from my data source that I want to display in the drop-down list, both what is displayed and what the actual value is when an option is selected. We only have one choice because we only chose one field from the table, and so this is OK. Click OK. Next, change the name of the drop-down list to DDL invoice and set its auto postback property to true. And then we can look in the ASP Xcode and see the select statement that we just created. So let's do that. I'm going to click on this control that we just added, and I'm going to go over to properties, and we see it's a drop-down list, and I'm going to change it to drop-down list invoice, DDL invoice, and auto postback true. All right. Now let's look at the source. And we can see that we have, this is what we've just added. We've got a drop-down list here. It's named DDL1 Invoid. Let me fix that. Invoice. Okay. Source. Invoice. Run at server postback equals true. That means when we change it, it's going to do a submit. This is the data source, and this is the data text field, which is displayed from the data source, and this is the value field that's taken from the data source. And this defines the data source here. It's called data source, SQL data source 1. This is the connection string. It's this Halloween connection. And this is the select statement that is executed. And this total here comes from this parameter, total parameter right here. All right, what's next? Add another data source control to the page within the div element of the second form group and configure it so it uses the same connection string, but this time have it select product ID, unit price, quantity, and extension, those fields from the line items table. And we want to put in a where so that the record that's selected from so only the records from the line items table where that match the invoice number are selected. And we're going to get that number that we want, that invoice number that we want to match. We're going to get that from the Dropdown. Okay, so let's do that. I want to add my next, I want to add that SQL data source right here. This is the second form group. So let me go over to design, and that's where it is right there. So let me find a SQL data source. Here's one. I'm going to put it right there. And then I'm going to configure the data source, and I'm going to use this connection string, and I'm going to use the line items table, and I want these 4 fields here: product ID, unit price, quantity, and extension. And I want to add a where on the invoice number. The operator is equal sign, and the source is a control. And let's look at the vast array of controls that we have to choose from. Oh, just one, DDL invoice. And I think that's it. Click Add, and click OK. And then click Next. And then click Finish. And okay, so after that, we need to add a data list control to the form just before the SQL data source that we just added. And we want to set the data source of that data list control to the SQL data source that we just created. And then we want to do some other stuff here. So let's go here. So we want to add the control right here. Oops, so right here, just above the data source that we just added. So let's go find one. It's called a data list. There it is. Data list. Here it is. Put that right here. Okay. And we're going to choose a data source. Let's choose SQL data source 2. I'm going to run this right now, see what it looks like. And here it is. This doesn't look like much, but when we select a different invoice, 1041, we see that the line items change. 1050, we're selecting these items here, and so on. Okay, now we're going to mess with the formatting. Now we're going to mess with the CSS for this. All right, so let's shut this off. Okay, let's go back to what the instructions are. Now it says here, assign the Bootstrap form control class to the data list and then change its names to DL line items. Okay, so it turns out that they made a mistake. They meant to put this instruction, assign the Bootstrap form control class. They meant to say that assign it to this one. So let's do that. We need to assign, go here, and we need to go up to this one and say CSS class equals form dash control. There. Now, oh, and I'm going to name this DL line items because I should have done that. That's this thing. That's this. No, this. Yeah, this. Properties. Yeah, DL in No, line items. Okay, now let's run this, and the only thing we'll see that's different is we will see that data form or data control class helps. See. Why? Oops, I think I added it to the wrong thing. Oops, okay, let me go back to this source. I added it to the wrong thing. This is the data list. I meant to add it to the drop-down list. I made the same mistake that I actually followed the directions that they said, and that's what happens. You notice that it didn't do anything. Let's see this again. See, this is all messed up. Look at this. Look at this big thing there. That shouldn't be there. Let's stop this, and let's cut this out of here and put it up here where it belongs, right in this drop-down list. By the way, it doesn't have to go way over here. It can go anywhere. But I think I will put it at the end. Paste. And let's see what it looks like now. Yes, that's better. So this is what that formatting is supposed to do. And so we see that now at least that top part looks fine. Okay, what's next? Now we need to do 8 is display the smart tag for the data list control and select the edit templates command to display the item template. Then delete the literal text from each column but leave the labels, and we'll see what that means. What we need to do is go back to the source, and we need to go to the design, click on this and click down on this smart tag and edit the templates. And this is the template here. And we're supposed to get rid of this label, this literal text here, and just leave the product ID labels. So I guess I can do that right here. Actually, the easier way to do it is to go over the source and just get rid of, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. That gets rid of the labels. Then we can go back to here. We need to display the smart tag menu for unit price. And we want to select edit the data bindings. And then in the data bindings dialog box, we want to apply currency format to the unit price. And we also want to apply currency format to the extension column. So to do that, we go click this, and we go edit templates again, and then we go edit price label, click on the smart tag right here, and click edit data bindings, and change format to currency. Okay. And we want to do the same thing for extension label. Click the smart tag, click edit data bindings, and change that to currency. Okay. And then we can exit from this. Remove the BR labels that follow the label controls and assign call XS3 bootstrap class to each label. And then also assign text write class to the last three unit price, quantity, and extension labels. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go back over to source, and I'm going to get rid of the breaks. Get rid of the break. Get rid of this break. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. And then I'm going to add right here CSS class equals call-XS-3, And this one, I'm going to put CSS class equals call dash XS dash 3 space text dash write. And that attribute I'm going to add to this one and this one. So now they all are call dash XS dash 3, and the last three are also text write. Okay. So let's quickly look at that. Well, it's getting there. Okay, next we're going to add a header template with 4 span elements that contain the text for the column headings shown above. Now, it turns out, so we go back here, turns out, okay, so we want to add a header element. Well, we can do that by going like this, edit templates, and we want to change the edit template to a header template, and right in here is where we want to put those 4 spans that will be column headers. The trouble is that there's no span in the toolbox here, so I'm just going to put the first one, which is going to be product, and I'm just going to put that there like that, and then I'm going to switch over to source and see that here it is right here. That's what I just added. And what I want to do now is add 4 spans that contain the labels. So I'm going to add a span of class equals call dash XS dash 3 because we're supposed to use the same ones as before. And then close. And then I'm going to say product, and that's the first one. And I'm going to copy this one more time. And this one is going to be unit price, and this also is a text dash write. Okay, and then I'm going to take this and copy it twice more, and this column heading is going to be quantity, and this column heading is going to be extension. And then in the data list, I'm also going to add, actually, let's run this. It says to run it and see what it looks like. We're almost done. Only one more step after this. All right, we're getting awfully close, and now I need to add this last final CSS to make this come to life and look like what the assignment's supposed to look like when we're done. Here it is. We assign these bootstrap table classes to the data list control. So that's the table, and we're going to add these classes. We're going to add table, and we're going to add table bordered, and we're going to add table striped, and we're going to add table condensed. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then the last thing we're going to do is down at the bottom, we're going to add this header style element that assigns BG-Halloween class to the header of the data list control. And then we're done. Here's the data list control. So we need to add a CSS class equals table bordered, table striped, striped, and table condensed. Okay, those are the table classes that we add. And then the last thing we do is we can put that down here, is we put header style, header CSS class equals BG Halloween. And then we need to close it. And now when we run it, we see it looks how it's supposed to look. And the reason it doesn't change is because we've got our CSS columns. We're using XS, col-XS, which means no matter how small it is, we're still going to see columns. And when we change the different invoice, we see a different set of line items. All right. Thanks for watching.